So, what were we talking about? We were talking about legal stuff. But, okay, so what I'm gonna do, this is still under some of the legalities of ethics. But when it comes to ethical decision making and practices and the framework that you're gonna follow, we're gonna talk about consent, consent versus informed consent. Consent versus informed consent. That's what we're going to talk about, okay? So, there's a difference. So we get the versus. Who wants to tell me either one of those two things?
Consent is permission. No?
A little more than that.
Informed consent is when somebody has to be, he knows what they're going to do to him, if informed by the doctor or by the MP, if they're going to do a procedure or something, I know what I'm going to do to it, and I say, okay, it's okay.
Okay, there's a mutually agreed upon procedures to my treatment.
Yeah.
But that's for a doctor and stuff like that. Do you work in a hospital? You work in health, so you work in a healthcare field. So this is in the healthcare field, but in doctors, you have to be informed of what the mutually agreed upon procedure of my treatment is going to be, and the patient has to say, I'm in. Okay? Okay, so anybody else want to add to that? Let me just look at my notes here. Have we got it there with that?
Yep, we have.
Informed consent is a process whereby the patient and the therapist mutually agree upon the course of treatment that will be taken. Informed consent is important in the field of counseling and all areas of therapy, assessment, counseling, research, and consulting services. The process of informed consent provides both the patient and the therapist or counselor an opportunity to make sure that they adequately understand their shared venture. It is a process of communication and clarification. Okay, so that's something that we need to know how to do as CASACs, as one of the 12 core functions of counseling. We need to be able to clearly clarify and explain to our clients their course of treatment, and they have to mutually agree upon it, because that is ethical. Okay? So let me give you an example of an unethical way to do that informed consent. We're at a program, and there's a water cooler here that the clients have access to, and we put a medication, a trial medication, into the water that the patients can drink, because we want to see if it helps them grow freckles, or if it helps them with their drug cravings, or something. We want to see if there's a variable, if there's a reaction, or what it is, but we don't tell the patients.
It's like a blind study.
No, that's not a blind study. No, a blind study using the scientific method is when you have a control group and the control group and the experimental group that we're going to give, and we're going to give the placebo to. But they don't know. They don't know. A blind study is the researchers don't know. The research, the people doing the research, especially with random sampling. So the researchers don't know who's getting the placebo and who's getting the independent variable that they give the experimental medication to. So we don't know. So as we're doing when we're collecting the data, oh, these research data, they love the data, they collect the data, you know, but they don't know, they're gonna see if the hypothesis is true or not true, but they don't know who's getting what. That's a double blind study. So, well, in that case, where we're slipping them a Mickey, we're slipping them a Mickey and we're not gonna tell them, we're gonna see if they get a reaction. They don't know, it's not agreed, that's not agreed. Okay, that is unethical. Makes perfect sense, right? Okay, so we don't do that. That's informed consent. I'm gonna come back to this, okay? And what about this consent? What's that?
I guess it's the opposite.
Don't guess. Don't make it up as you go along. Anybody? We'll call this patient, I'll give you patient consent.
Are you agree to whatever they're doing? Sign off on it.
Huh?
You agree to whatever.
You agree to whatever, you're making this up as you go along, right?
No,
You agree to
that's-
whatever. Whatever works for you, works.
No, whatever medically the doctor presented to you, you agree to.
But you didn't, you
No.
weren't informed.
Well, I
No,
know.
young
Because
lady
I have to
here.
sign. Consent is, receiving the patient's permission for something, to do something.
What?
Like, for example, I need the patient's consent to share their information with their doctor, or their
Okay.
consent to give
Oh, I
out.
got it.
Like a release then.
I knew that was it, but I wanted to get a little bit more from you. Like to do something wasn't cutting it for me, okay? That's the patient's consent to release information. Is that what you're saying? The patient's consent to release this information that you have because it'll be good for him. And he gives you permission, right? Right? Okay, right. So that is patient consent. So how do you go about doing that? Yeah, you can tell my lawyer. You can tell my lawyer that I'm being good.
You get release forms.
You get release forms, okay? It's a form, okay? So, when it comes to patient consent being versus informed consent, this first one is a form, okay? It's a form. What did you say? That what needs to be?
Signed.
Needs to be signed. Needs to be signed by the patient, right?
Yes.
Give me another one. Dated.
And specific information.
Specific. It's not, here's your chart.
Yeah, figure it out yourself.
Yeah, you know, it might just be just medication orders or this, the site diagnosis or something. It must be something specific. Okay. What did you say something?
I said also expiration date.
It needs an expiration date, yes it does, but I'm gonna say, because there's an automatic expiration date on it after 6 months, but unless you specify an expiration date. We're killing it here, man, you guys are killing it. Huh?
So can I say to compare and contrast?
Hold on,
Okay.
I just wanna make sure we're getting all this, right? Okay,
You also need the name of the person's going to be receiving the information.
you need the name of the person that's gonna receive the information, the receiver,
Plus the receiver.
plus the receiver. Okay?
Beautiful.
Looking good. And this informed consent, huh?
What are those last two words?
Informed consent,
Now,
On the bottom.
receiver, and receivee.
oh,
I couldn't get down that low. Okay, so, and informed consent is verbal. You're explaining to the patient. You're explaining. You're explaining to them. consent and informed consent is that this is a legal contract, a legal document. Okay? I can write it big here, legal. When we're talking about ethics and legal standards, this is a legal document, a contract that you have that's signed and dated and specific and blah, 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 with the receiver and CV and what the information is, and expiration date, versus informed consent, which is a mutually agreed upon course of treatment for the patient.
So that's not legal?
It's not a legal document, no,
It's not written in stone,
it's
right?
not a legal contract. And also, different programs may have different treatment, you know, and or, I mean, if you're in a hospital, you know, they're gonna, you don't know what they're gonna do, they stick something up your nose, or, you know, stick something, you know, they're gonna cut you open. And then, I think they said there's a thing that you have to sign, that if you could die from this, you know,
you won't sue.
you could
Your
die
family
from
won't
this,
sue.
the treatment, right?
We accept no
If you do die, we're not liable, you're going to this willingly,
Yep.
and happy about it. Okay.
Is the treatment plan the written outcome of informed consent?
No, no. Treatment plan is only one small part of informed consent. Okay? So, I see that there, but informed consent, you know the 12 core functions of counseling, right? Because we did that, we've gone over that, other trainings and stuff, right? So, when do you do informed consent? Treatment plan, no, it's too late.
Your analysis?
Intake, no.
Assessment.
Somebody said it.
Your
Assessment.
analysis.
Not during the intake, because the intake is they're not even a patient still. Orientation, right. That's when we would do it. The person's gonna be admitted, we're gonna give him an orientation. Okay, we're gonna go to, part of the orientation is to inform him of his patient's rights and responsibilities, and this is what your treatment is gonna be, and this is what we can do, and this is what we can't do, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna let him know. Okay? So, in the handout, I'm gonna hand you a copy, if for those watching at home. Get it, you know? It'll be part of it. Yes.
Forget.
Yes,
I forget
it's,
the hand.
it's the TRS 2. It's the OASAS TRS 2.
You're busy, yeah, you're busy, sir. Baby,
I didn't sign this.
I don't have my own, brand new baby.
We didn't sign what?
I didn't get a sign-in sheet.
I've been not sleeping. I get it.
I know you do.
She's adorable.
Just pass it.
I get one more? Never mind.
There's 2 pages to this. I just want to alert you of what the second page is. OASAS now says that you have to have this second page when you have a release, or when you fax a release, or send a release, or send information. This is to inform the people that are receiving the information that there can be no third-party release of the information. Because with that Portability Act, remember I said, it follows them. So let's just have a look at that second page there. The information that has been disclosed to you from records protected by federal confidentiality rules, 42 CFR Part 2 and HIPAA. We just talked about that. Here it is. You know exactly what they're talking about, right? The federal the federal rules prohibit you from making further disclosure of this information unless further disclosure is expressly permitted by the written consent of the person to whom it pertains to or is otherwise permitted by CFR Part 2 and or HIPAA. Everybody knows what we're talking about now. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about CFR Part 2. I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about that. And that's the part that says that anyone who is in treatment for drug and alcohol treatment in an OASAS or a drug and alcohol treatment program nationwide is protected. That's under confidentiality cannot even disclose. So nobody can disclose that person. If you're in a program receiving drug and alcohol treatment, I mean, it's not. What are you going to that program for? Drug and alcohol treatment, right? Okay, so all right. So you can't disclose that. It's not like you're going to a doctor's office. You're going into a drug and alcohol treatment program. Something New Horizons Counseling for Better People and Betterment. You're going there. Everybody knows what it is. The federal rules restrict any use of the information to criminally investigate or prosecute any alcohol and drug patient. Okay, so OASAS says you have to have both. Okay, so if you look at the form, this paragraph here, just look at that paragraph. Privacy rule, code of federal regulations governing confidentiality under the Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act 1996, blah, 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 blah. We just, that's what we covered in this course. So, in this section before, so now you know what they're talking about. It's a form, it has to be signed, it has to be dated, it has to be specific. See where it says extent or nature of the information to be disclosed? You're going to put something specific there. And purpose or need of the disclosure or release. Why do they need to know that? And then the person between who, if it's your ABC Counseling Center, and the person who's going to receive the information. And the time period, it will automatically expire after 6 months, but the time period, be specific, can be 1 day. Specific to this day, this information, just that, and don't bother me again, okay? Okay, so, again, this is a legal binding contract. It needs all of that information, and this is verbal, and you're explaining to the person about the information that they're going to get received the treatment as part of orientation.